Hi loves, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful waistcoat. To subscribe to the channel, share to friends. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Watch and see you in our subsequent tutorials. The first thing first I'm going to mark is 5 inches at the bottom of my pattern paper. Okay, so this will come in use later. We're going to talk about it later. Having done that now, I'm going ahead to mark 1.5 inches for my button allowance. Okay, that's what I'm going ahead to mark. Next step now is to mark the full length of your waistcoat. Alright, so you may decide to use your waist measurements, but for this I worked with 18 inches. I'm going to make a rule across that point. Then I'm going to connect my 1.5 inches points I also made earlier together, just as you see me doing. Having done that now, I'm going to go ahead to insert my shoulder measurements. I worked with 7.5 inches. Then from the shoulder points, you come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope. Then you're going to insert your neck width, which is 3 inches. Connect to your shoulder slope. And this is what we have. Then from the shoulder slope, you're going to mark, that's from your start point line now, you're going to mark your bust line. Mine is at 10 inches. And I'm going to make a rule across that line, just as you see me doing. Alright, I'm going to label it B, then W, which is the hem. Then I want it to join the line straight. On my bust line, I'm going to insert my bust measurement, and I'm going to do the same to my waist measurement. Okay, now I also added 1 inch extra, which is for that allowance. So I'm going to connect them using a dotted line. Please note this is not your actual seam allowance, it's just your body measurement. Okay, to mark my shoulder measurements on my chest line to create a block form. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my armhole measurements, that is my chest line depth, which is 7.5, and I divided it into 2 to get the midpoint. This is to enable me create that curve, that armhole curve. Alright, so from the midpoint of my chest line, I'm going to go ahead to make my curve, just as you see us doing, just that way. Okay, now the next thing to do is to add 1.5 or 1 inch or 2 inches sewing allowance, depending on the inches you want to make use of, and this is what we have. The next point now is to mark your neck depth. So I'm going to be working with 8 inches neck depth. So I'm going to mark my 8 inches at this point. Then I'm also going to mark my neck width at that area again. Okay, then connect it using a straight rule. This is to enable me create a perfect U curved shape. Now I'm going to divide the 8 inches into 2 to get the midpoint. Yeah, just as you see me doing. Then from that midpoint, I'm going to be making a curve into the 8 inches proper. This is for my button allowance, don't forget. The next part now is to work on the down part of the waistcoat proper. So from your center point, go in by 3 inches. This is our 3 inches. Remember we marked 5 inches earlier. Now it's going to come into play. We're also going to mark the 3 inches at the bottom where we have our 5 inches. So from that bottom part, connect to your button allowance here, the center. Don't exceed that point. So use a rule to connect it, just as you see me doing. Then from the 5 inches, that is the 3 inches, 5 inches down, connect to your actual body measurements, not the seam allowance. Please connect to the actual body measurements, just as you have seen me doing. And this is what we have. Okay. The next step now is to go ahead to cut this piece out. Please note that you're going to be using this to cut out your back piece. The difference there is your back piece is not going to be having the basque you have in front. Okay, then the neck depth of your back is not going to be deep like your front. All right, so at this part now, please go ahead to make because it's sharp, go ahead and blend it in to avoid the sharp edges. All right, that's what I did there. I also do that to the stitching allowance area. I'm also going to make it a blend, but I'll use my scissors to do that now. Okay, so cut out your piece. Basically, your front piece is ready. All you have to do is transfer it to your fabric. So in order to cut out our back piece, you're going to be closing the button allowance piece. They're also going to be closing this basque points, that is that shape, V-shaped we have or triangle shape we have at the bottom. We're also going to be closing it because our back piece is not going to be having that. Our back piece will actually stop at the waistline. So this is for the front one. I'm going to need to cut it out now. So we'll now use this to cut out our back piece. So guys, first thing first I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and run a dart on my front piece. Note that our front piece is having a dart. Okay, so this is my dart. Please ignore this one. This is the one for my dart. Okay, so from your center, this you mark your dart about 4 inches. Okay, that is when you put in the measurement. Go ahead and run a stitch on it. So when we are done with that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to join our front and back together. What I mean is you're going to go ahead to shape it using your 1.5 inches. Remember, you use 1.5 inches for your seam allowance. So whichever seam allowance you use, that's what you're going to be using here. Okay, so you're going to and join the back and the front together. Please don't touch the shoulder yet. We'll come back to that. So at this point, I'm going to join my front and back together using the stitching two of them together. Right? And I did the same thing for my lining piece. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to do was to join both the front and the back together. That is the lining and the fabric, right sides facing each other. And this is what I have to do. I close the arm area, the neck, the button allowance, this part. Okay. Then I didn't touch the shoulder. The two shoulders are all open. Okay, the shoulder space is open. Now, another thing to note is on your lining piece, you're going to be leaving few inches opening. Okay, so you're not going to shape, that is your lining to line one side of it, you're not going to shape it completely. You leave a space. This is where you're going to turn it out from. This is where you're going to pull it out. So that's what I'm going to do now. So guys, having done this now, this is what it looks like. This is what the inside looks like. Okay. So you see, there's no, you're not going to see any stitching and all the rest of them. So what you have to do is go ahead and run a stitch on here to close this up. Okay. So now, the next thing to do is to join your two shoulders together, iron your waistcoats properly, then go ahead to fix your button. I suggest you pull one of the front shoulder into the back shoulder and turn it out from there, or you can decide to just run a stitch on it together.